Hello, I'm Sumit Roy here. Today I'm going to talk about a very buzz topic called design thinking. Design thinking is becoming quite a hot topic. Everybody is talking about it. What exactly is design thinking? Design thinking is a process by which we are trying to become sensible about the world around us, and we are trying to give a shape and a structure the way the world works. And of course, design thinking is nothing new, though it is becoming quite a hot topic as of now. Designs are there from the days of the civilization. And during almost last 200 years, design is getting much more effective, and for last almost 20-25 years, it is becoming much more impactful in the way we are trying to do and make things really happen. Design is not only for engineering. Generally, it has been considered that only engineers can design. Design is for engineering, design is for fashion, design is for technology, design is for business, design is for management, design is for services. Everywhere there is a design. Whatever the mind can conceive, it can actually create something. Design is the process by which we are trying to make the invisible the visible, unmanifest the manifest. We are trying to give an akar from nowhere and trying to make human life much more better. How do we do that? And it is a process. It is the human-centeredness that makes design thinking a real possibility. Be it a bicycle, be it a car, be it a laptop, be it this particular video. These are all design that is being made artificially. But if you see around us, the nature itself is a big design. The galaxies, the stars, the solar system, our entire universe, the planet, the planetary system, the planetary movement, the gravity, everything is a design. Human beings are trying to copy nature, and there's a term called biomimicry where we are trying to mimic the nature and actually get those designs in our day-to-day life. Now let's understand how design thinking is really getting applicable in our day-to-day life. And is there any particular process for that? Definitely yes. And that's actually makes design thinking really a topic. We'll find that people who are making success and making a lot of money, they are actually designers. Now designer doesn't mean that you have to be an engineer or you have to come from an art school. Definitely that adds lots of value, but anybody can become a designer. So what actually requires for a design thinker is to more of an empathy. Empathy is the first and the foremost step to become a good designer. When I say empathy, how do I understand the human problem? How do I understand problems in our society? Wherever there's a problem, and one has to empathize. Once a person empathizes, then one can. The next step is define. Once I understand the problem, then I need to define the problem. When I am talking about defining the problem and making it much more concrete, I am giving a lot of flesh to my idea. And once I bring those components of definition, then I need to ideate. What are the other things that I can make and I can grow and I can make it much more bigger? Ideation. So first is empathizing, second is defining, third is we are trying to ideate. When you are trying to ideate, we are trying to come up with more structures, and then we restructure, because every design is a redesign. Because if the computer is being made in the best possible design, it is because of many versions of design has gone in making things really a possibility. So one is design, and that is design thinking. So when the thinking is involved, the very process of design, then it is called actually a design thinking. So we are trying to understand the process. So we empathize, we define, we ideate, then we prototype. Prototype is basically the blueprint of the product that is going to come to the market, and we are trying to do certain kind of a definition and redefinition of the product, and we do several iteration. And once prototype is being made, we go for certain kind of a testing, and once test is successful, then you go for final application. So these are the general steps of design thinking. Now generally when you talk about design thinking, there are a couple of elements. So there is something called srijan, that is basically creativity. Now generally human beings are creative. Creativity, design thinking goes hand in hand. But it is not necessary that if somebody is creative, somebody can become a design thinker. But definitely creativity is one of the adhisthana, that is one of the base substratum for design thinking. So once we start thinking in those domain of creativity, we are able to come up with something kind of a novelty. So as John Arnold in 1959 in his book Creative Engineering, he first used the word called design thinking, and there he talks about novelty, where he talks about functionality, where he talks about low cost, and he talks about scalability. So these are the four dynamics that John Arnold has pointed out in terms of design thinking. And wherever we find certain kind of issue, a problem, pain, a design is required. If you are going to a dentist, you have to wait for a long time. That means there's a design problem. If you have a problem with your gas cylinder and it is not functioning, it is a design problem. If you have certain problem with the classroom, it is a design problem. If you go to a doctor, if you're not getting a proper kind of a treatment, it's a design problem in terms of diagnosis. So design is not only with the structure, design is also with the process, design is also with the shape, design is also with the texture, design is also with the service. So we are trying to empathize, and most of them are actually human-centered. For example, in many of the villages, you will find that a lot of ladies, they carry a huge amount of, they actually put the water in a can or in a tumbler, and they take the tumbler on their head, and they have to walk a long distance. And if they have a baby or a child, how do they actually take care of the child? Because both the hands are engaged. So a device came where the tumbler is in the form of a cylinder, and the cylinder can be rolled, and you can roll that particular that cylinder which has a lot of water with one hand, and one hand of course is free, so we can take care of the child. That is design thinking. So we become human-centered. So if you talk about, say, there are a lot of sheep moving in the road, okay, and we find that the road is getting scattered with a lot of ships. So how that can be solved? So that can be a cage with the wheels, and all the with wheels, and of course there can be, and they can be enclosed. There can be an enclosure. So all the sheep are of course walking, but the cage is made in such a flexible way that the cage is also moving, but the sheep are actually enclosed. They are encircled by that particular cage. So it gives a direction. So design thinking is basically trying to solve the problem about anything that we as humanity are actually facing. And so design thinking is a bridge between creativity and innovation, because it is not necessary if somebody is creative, somebody can be innovative. Innovation is basically application of the ideas of creativity. And what bridges the gap between creativity and innovation is the design thinking. And how do we get that? And once we are able to get this design thinking in process, in roll on, we'll find that is making sense. So we talk a lot about creativity, but it doesn't get applied to innovation. So if everybody is creative, or if a lot of people are creative, they are not innovative. So what bridges the gap between creativity and innovation is the design thinking, and that is actually the missing link. And once we bring design thinking in process, we find innovation is actually happening. That is one. And design thinking is also a bridge between science, technology, and commercial application. How do you bring science to the kitchen? How do you bring science to the field? How do you bring technology to the humanity? And there comes design. So the more is the human-centered approach, more is the empathy, more is the definition, more is the ideation, and then there's a prototype. Then you really take design thinking in process. So design thinking involves lots of spontaneity. It requires lots of bit of cognition. It requires a huge amount of empathy. It requires certain element of restructuring our thought process. It also uses visualization tool, and it also has an element of aesthetics and beauty, because and of course functionality. Anything that is functional, anything that has usage, anything that has applicability gets into design. So it's quite a happening topic, and everybody designs something, and you can always ask a question to yourself: have I designed anything? You'll find that yes, you have designed something. We have maybe you have created a new dish. You have found certain ways to tend your garden in a different way, or you take care of your pet in a different way. Anything that is better, anything that is faster, anything that is convenient, that means you are actually applying design thinking. So design thinking has huge application, and how do we actually use it has of course certain technicalities. So it is not something that cannot be learned. It's a discipline, and by certain methodical approach, one can become a design thinker. Thank you.